Hey guys, so in today's video I wanted to talk to you about this beautiful 1 to 6 risk to reward trade that we took, not only myself but also everyone that was in the Discord with me. I sent them this sell limit, which ended up going all the way down to a 6% profit target, right? So the one thing that I want to really stress about this trade is not only was this a higher time frame trade that we took off of a 4-hour a supply zone, but it was also a trade that mixed in very, very well with our JUDAS swing framework. So it was incorporating both of these strategies, and today let's break it down so that we can understand exactly why it was that I took this trade. So let me just put this into replay mode so that we can have a better understanding of what we're looking at. So the first thing that I did was I woke up and I saw that price was previously bullish. So let's mark out our direction. So we've got a higher high, a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So for me, this area right here, which is a nice demand zone, would have been an area where I would have liked to see price continue its bullish trend from, right? So we get a higher high, then we anticipate a higher low, and then a higher high. So that was my anticipation, and as I watched price come into this demand zone, I realized that price broke through, therefore invalidating this bull trend and actually changing character to now start a bearish trend. So when I saw this happen, I was very, very interested in looking for shorts, and I had this supply zone marked out right here because this is the supply zone that not only invalidated this bull trend by breaking structure to the downside, but it was also a breaker block that was actually where price stopped in this demand zone, gave us a bullish reaction, but then ended up breaking to the other side anyway. So this showed me that this area is where the bulls tried to enter the market, but they actually failed and the bears took over. So this is a high level of interest in this area that I want to be looking for shorts from. So I had this marked out on the 4-hourly. So we've now got our directional bias. So from here on out, what we're now going to be doing is sticking with the JUDAS swing framework because the remainder of the trade was following this exact framework. So if you haven't got this by now, please feel free to jump down in the description where you'll find a link to download this for completely free. And also you'll find a link to jump into my Discord where you can come and say hi and have a chat with all of us traders in there too. So let's jump straight into it. Our first thing that we have to do is understand the directional bias, which we've now done. We've realized that we are now in a bearish trend because we've invalidated this bullish trend by breaking structure or changing character to the downside. Now, the second thing that we have to do is we have to realize that the JUDAS swing happens between 7 and 9 a.m. UK time. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be marking out our liquidity, which is the Asia high and the Asia low. So for me, this is between midnight and 7 a.m. UK time. And once we mark out this liquidity, we simply wait for either side of this liquidity to be purged before looking for an entry. So if we drop down to the lower time frame, I use this indicator called the Asian Session Range by Rob Minty. I just do this because it makes it easier for me to see than having to actually mark it out myself. So it just makes my life a little bit easier. So if you play price on, we can see that 7 a.m. is right here. So our Asia low is right here, and our Asia high, if we drop down to the 1 minute, we can see that our Asia high is right here because that is the 7 a.m. candle. So we've got our high and our low. So to add more confluence to this trade, we now know that on the higher time frame, we are bearish. We've just entered a 4-hour supply zone. And from this supply zone, we are going to be actively looking for sells because we now know that we are in a bearish trend. So not only are we in a 4-hour zone that is of high interest to us, we have also now created liquidity on the Asia range, right? And we've now purged this liquidity right here, which gives us even more confluence because the next step in our JUDAS swing framework is to wait for a market structure shift after a purge of liquidity. So we've now got a liquidation of this buy side liquidity, And now we're looking for a market structure shift. So let's mark this out together, because now we're in a higher time frame area of interest. We've swept the liquidity, and now we're waiting for a market structure shift. So price plays around for a little bit, and then eventually we get this right here. So let's mark this out together. So we've got a let's just start from down here. So we've got a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, higher low. Now we're trading in between this range, right? So if I mark this out properly like this, so that's our higher low right there, and this right here is our higher high. So we're now inside of this complex pullback range where we don't know what's going to happen until we either break to the upside or break to the downside, right? So next we can see that we've taken out this higher low, giving us a change of character or a market structure shift. Now that we get this market structure shift, we now know that we've invalidated the bull trend, and now we are turning bearish the exact same way that it happened on the 4 hour. That same fractal nature is now happening on the lower time frame. So whilst all of this is going on, the number one thing that you also have to keep in your mind is that at any point, news can come in and invalidate your trades. So what we also have to do is keep aware of what's happening around the world and make sure that we understand what news is coming out and when and what currency it will affect. So for this, I like to use fastball.com because their user interface is super clean. So as we can see on Thursday, I came over to their economic calendar on Thursday, and then what I did is I simply just pressed the screen button, removed all of these ticks from the low impact news, and left the tick on for the 3 stars, which is high impact news, because that's what's going to affect us the most. So as we can see, we've got all of this information, all of these news events that are going to be coming out on that day, which we had a lot of. So as we can see, it also tells us on the side what this is going to affect and how it's affected the currency once the news has come out. So if we click on XAU USD, it can show us that XAU USD was bullish once this news event happened, right? So you have to make sure you're aware of what news is coming out and when. So I always have this open on the side, because the good thing about fastball.com is that not only do they have their website, but they also have a downloadable app, so that if you are somebody who's on the go, like I was when taking this trade. I was actually on holiday, so I was traveling and I wasn't in front of my computer screen. So it was a godsend that I had this app downloaded, because I could just check the news at a quick glance without having to go onto the internet and searching for the website. Not only that, but they have all sorts of different things such as AI signals from analysts, from institutions. They have, all sorts of news data from in and around the world, so that you don't have to actively go and sign up for all of these news websites. You can just have everything at your fingertips in one place. So fastball.com is what I use personally for my analysis. Feel free to go down in the description, click the link and check out their website, because they are super good. So having said all of that, we now have to quickly check what news is actually coming out on that day. This trade was taken at around 8 a.m. in the morning. So this was Spanish composite PMI, which isn't for us, France. So all of this news was coming out. We knew that it was coming out, so we were anticipating everything that was happening alongside the trade. So we've swept the liquidity. We're in a higher time frame area of interest. We've got our market structure shift, and going back to the framework, our next step is to identify a fair value gap, because once we've got a market structure shift, we need to identify our fair value gap, because that is where we're going to be taking our entry. So once we've identified that, we put our stops above the most local high, and then we target the opposing liquidity. So in this case, what I actually did is I was targeting this fair value gap right here. So it's a little bit different because my broker tapped me in at a different place than this, because the spreads were a little bit different. So that's why I have my entry down here. But this is where the entry should have been, because this is our fair value gap that we're targeting. Our stops are now above the most local high, and our targets, as much as they should be right here, which they was in my TP1, which was right here at the opposing liquidity for our targets, I also targeted the low of this range, because as we can see, we're now in a bearish trend. So we've got a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high. So we should see a lower low, which should break this low, giving us a new lower low before giving us a lower high and a continuation, right? So that was the theory that I was running with, which is why I was targeting the lows right here, so that at least we can get a much better risk to reward. So that was my final TP3, the low of this range. But of course, our first targets have to be the opposing liquidity according to the Judas swing. So that's what I had targeted. So now if we play price on, we can see exactly what happened. Price comes in, gives us a solid tap. And then from then on, it is just a beautiful run to the downside. So overall, this trade lasted pretty much the entire day. It gave us a solid risk to reward. And as we can see, it plays on. Let me just speed it up just a little bit right here. So there's the liquidation of the opposing liquidity and a nice and smooth run all the way down to a 1 to 6 risk to reward. As we can see, I did send this in the signals group and I made sure I kept everyone aware of what was happening. So I told everyone to go break even because we was inside a 15-minute bullish order block, and of course higher time frame we were bearish, but you have to also account for the macro data as well. So then we had TP1 hit, which was 2%, 4%, and then 6% right there. So a solid trade that ran all the way down to 6%. Not only that, but if we take a look at where price actually went, it ran all the way down here, which could have been a solid 1 to 13 if anyone held to. So as we can see, that was a beautifully paired trade with the Judas swing along with higher time frame influences such as supply and demand zones. So these are the trades that I love the most because it gives me so much more confidence as to why I'm taking this trade. It helps build the narrative of why this trade should play out the way I want it to play out. So overall, amazing trade. If you guys are interested, please do jump down in the description, click the link to join the Discord. We are currently having a sale where the signals are much cheaper than normal. So we do have deals which is £103 a month, £308 for 3 months, and £617 for 6 months, which is a 30% drop of their normal prices. So if you guys are interested, don't forget to jump down in the description, click the link to join the Discord, and also check out fastball.com. But on that note, guys, I hope everyone enjoyed this trade setup. It was beautiful. If you got something from this, if you were to get some value, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.